Truth and Triggers podcast. Truth and Triggers podcast. At some point, I will have theme music, but until then, you have that terrible rendition of whatever that was. Hey, welcome to Truth and Triggers podcast. I am Nadly Mo, the host, creator, all the things. And I am so glad that you guys are in this space. This is the first episode I can dub. We'll see what editing and all that great stuff looks like. But we are stepping out on faith and doing the things that God has called us to do. So I guess first off, the intros. Who am I? I am a child of God, a mother, a wife, a licensed clinical social worker, a mental health professional, a mental health advocate, and a strong believer that the two can intersect, mental health and faith. And that was kind of the idea of Truth and Triggers, where we can talk truth, the word of God, but we can also address things that can be triggers and things that affect our mental wellness and those things and everything in between. Thank you so much for joining. And I hope that it is helpful and it's informational and it's funny and it's not boring. But most off, that it is true to form, that it highlights the word of God, that it pushes the kingdom's work further, and all those great things. Okay. So let's get into it. Today, we will be talking about stressors and triggers. Not triggers, just stressors. We'll get into triggers another episode. But stressors. So this may be a word that you hear around and it's like, okay, well, what is that? What is that really? So definition time. Stressors are any situation, person, event, thought, or feeling that rocks you out of your element. You feel me? It shifts you out of your comfort zone. And so not all stressors are bad if you think of it that way. It's just something that might knock you off your square, may evoke different feelings and emotions, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. So a stressor can be something positive too. So you start a new job. You're going to another school. You move to a new town or new city. Maybe you joined a sporting team. Maybe there's a new relationship on the horizon, or you picked up a hobby. So as you're learning this new hobby, as you're entering into this new space, it may bring up all these, new different feelings. It may require a different skill set. You think about things often. And so it feels somewhat stressful, but that pressure is like a good pressure and it comes with like new expectations. But then on the flip side, you have some stressors that can be negative, right? And so this would look like the ones that bring up anxiety, sadness, depression, peer pressure, or insecurities. So these feelings can arise from a variety of situations. So this could be tension at the home, between siblings or parental figures, or just broke up with your significant other. So those can be stressors, but they don't feel good, right? And sometimes these bad stressors, they persist over time and they deepen. So maybe it's not just a one-off event. These are things that are kind of like ongoing or on a larger scale. Hello, somebody. We went through a whole global pandemic. Think about unemployment, a medical condition, or bullying. So this can cause confusion, lack of purpose, loss of identity, or uncertainty about God. So when we have these stressors and potentially the ones that are more negative, where do we run to find peace from our stressors? where do we go to find clarity about them? Where do we look for answers? Are these within our family or friendships? Could this be within your community? Whatever that community looks like. Maybe it's a virtual community like social media, or maybe it is like a in real life, in person support group, or it's your church home. Um, where do we find like a solitude? Is it substances? Are we like trying to numb out the feelings and not think or feel them? Could it be our faith? So, with other believers, with spiritual leaders, are we looking into biblical truth? And so, allow me to share some of that concerning this topic, right? Isaiah 26, verse 3, the ESV version. You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. So when we're going through these things that are rocking our world, that has us feeling off kilter, we can keep our minds focused on God, and he gives us perfect peace, and we trust that he will provide that he will constantly give that to us. And how about Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30? Come to me, all you who are tired and have heavy loads. I will give you rest. Accept my work and learn from me. I am gentle and humble in spirit, and you will find rest for your souls. The work that I ask you to accept is easy. The load I give you to carry is not heavy. Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30, the International Children Bible. I sometimes like to use that version because it's really straight to the point. Some real basic English right there. And so, stressors, there's things that we go through that can grow us, right? That can push us into more of our purpose, a deeper understanding of ourself, that can grant us wisdom. But that doesn't mean it's gonna feel good. And I think that's the hang up right there. And if we don't address it, it can turn into so much more. That impact can really affect us. And so, of course, as a mental health specialist, I think about how it affects us mentally in our headspace. And so that can look like the way we engage with others, the way we interact. That can look like our productivity. And I put productivity in quotes because sometimes what we consider as productive may not be realistic or healthy, but that is another topic for another day. But stressors can interrupt our focus, our concentration. In the physical or medical aspect, it can affect our health, of course. So if you're under all kind of stress and pressure for an extended period of time, like the chemical releases in your body are different. So instead of having like those feel good hormones, like, some oxytocin going off, we have more of that stress, that cortisol, and the cortisol levels. And so let's say women who have a high levels of cortisol, we get that big girthy middle. It affects the way our body stores fat and breaks things down, and our metabolism and our gut health. Just all these things that we may not even think are related, they are. Have you ever, and I'm going to take a little step back. So remember, I am a mental health professional, not a medical professional. Please do not take this information as, a diagnosis or any medical guidance per se. Check in with a medical professional when it comes to those areas. And neither should this podcast substitute a healthy relationship with either a therapist, a mental health professional, or, clergy, or someone from a Bible believing church. Alrighty. Should have added that to the beginning, but it's all right. Never too late yet. And so I think about sometimes when I see older people, and granted, this could be just literally bones and what happens over time. But when you're carrying a load for a long time, I feel like sometimes we wear it within our bodies. And you ever see anybody just look like they are weighed down by their burdens or their troubles? And so if that could happen, carrying that load, what happens when we accept Jesus Christ offer that the load that he offers is light? Us handing that over and not having to hold it and bear it ourselves anymore. Just thinking about that, I have like the imagery in my mind just feels like a beautiful thing. And it's like, do we accept it as true? Do we take it and we live like that's what it is? Or do we think of it and we say yes and we pick it up and then we put it back down? And we say yes and then we put it back down. We give it to God and we take it back. We give it to God and then we take it back. That's a very interesting way to live. And with that, we don't have the perfect peace that God was promising us. And so, inventory time. Think about things that can potentially be stressors. And like I said at the beginning, stressors can be, positive, and they could be, not so positive. They could be on the other polar side, that flip side. And so I would encourage you, take inventory. What do we have going on? Things that maybe we've been looking forward to for a while, a change in family dynamics, in addition to the family. That's an exciting thing. But that puppy can also be stressful. And when I say puppy, it could be a literal puppy or it can be a blessed gift from God, children. So those things come with, responsibilities and, financial stability and just all these different areas that, although it is an exciting journey, it can stress you the mess out. And so what are we taking that with? Are we taking it with stride and really trusting in God? Or are we fighting with our own strength? And so go mess around and fight with your own strength. You're going to get tired. You're going to find those times where you cannot, where you are depleted. It's only going to take you but so far. But with God's strength, on the other hand, he knows that we're limited, right? And we serve a God that is unlimited. And so he's able to more than just step in, but literally carry us, push us through, bring us to the other side of where we need to go. And so with stressors, the good ones, or even the not so pleasant ones, listen, an experience is an experience nonetheless. I think that it grows us to a different level. It brings us to a different space in our life. And there's some things we're going to catch and we're going to learn quicker than others. And there's some things maybe we got to repeat it and go through that test or go through that lesson multiple times. And that's all right, because I trust that God is in the details if we let him in. And so our truth and trigger point for today, your stressor, whether happy or sad, good or bad, or indifferent, how are we taking it on? Where are we finding our reset or our support or our peace? And are we ensuring that we're getting it from the right places, and that it's helpful and not harmful, that it's healthy and not unhealthy? All right, I hope that was helpful to somebody out there somewhere. Again, I am Nadly Mo. I'm looking forward to continuing further on in this podcast journey. Future episodes, we're looking to invite guests, talk about topics that I feel like will really help the body of believers, in language that we understand, right? And remove some of that taboo of what mental health is. What is mental wellness? What is it to speak or meet with a therapist? And so we'll jump more into that further. But thank you again for joining, and continue rocking with us. Thanks. Take care.